Everything is fantastic. I feel good about my life right now. I'm going to assume this is streaming. I can never tell when it's streaming or not because I never get a clear. Yeah, dude, you're streaming right now. Hello and welcome to Streamland or Streamopia. Hi, this is Art of Rock. Thanks for joining us. We do this mayhem every week. Please join us here. Actually, first and foremost, I want to acknowledge the Tongva people as the traditional landowners of Los Angeles. This is Art of Rock. Welcome. Every week we are here having a chat, doing our thing. Sometimes we're streaming, sometimes we're not. It just depends how everybody is. Look, I'll just do this because I feel I should. Ice Planet 9000 new album. There it is. Great find. Go get it. And you know, spoil your brain with it. Tonight there's a really cool gig happening. So this is MTV TV helping out, and they're doing a stream for a really cool gig in Argentina, right there. Be part of that. Watch it. It's going to be great. There's a really fun playlist that you should jump your face into, which is the Industrial Incisions playlist. A bunch of the bands here are on that. And there's a whole bunch of old industrial and new industrial, so please be part of it. Get on it, love it, follow those bands. Yeah. And more amazing music from MTV TV. So follow them on Twitch. Always something really, really, really good going on there. Welcome. This is Art of Rock. Welcome. Let's talk about, we just talked about briefly vinyl. This is probably hopefully going to go somewhere. Don't press vinyl. No matter how much you want to try, just don't press vinyl. Don't do it. Vinyl's fantastic because it's something that you can put under your bed. And it's an investment because you'll have it there for many years to come. Don't press vinyl. It's really interesting. I'm sort of questioning how much, like, is everything going digitally? Like, is band merch and everything going digitally? No, I want to hear your thoughts on this, and specifically for you, what you press. I don't want to hear about some massive band. I want to hear about you, Alex.
Well, I don't press anything, but I think there will always be a desire to have something physical. Maybe just t-shirts or jewelry or something like that. Maybe not music, but if I had to make a bet, I would bet there would be still physical media in centuries to come.
Brilliant, thank you. Raz.
I was just watching a mixing with the masters with Steve Albini on it yesterday, and in a similar context, he was talking about recording tape, magnetic tape reels as your masters versus DAW sessions and stuff, and he was a little bit like finer point on it, like analog tapes are going to be readable by any machine anytime in the future, which is kind of true, and DAW sessions, the software might not exist, excluding the fact that you can export them and there's intermediary formats. But his point was the analog artifact is something that is there for the ages. And in the same way, vinyl as an object that people buy, people of the galaxy are going to receive records, you know, or of the universe that we've sent out. People of our future are going to look at these transcriptions and say, "Oh yeah, there's waveforms on it. That's clearly air. We can make that work." And it's immediate. It's real. It's cool. And not to mention the most of the act of buying music from some of the best fans of music isn't about how to get the music. I mean, they can get it. They're already subscribed to things that will get them the music at the cost they're already paying. So paying extra and getting something with it, especially something that's this big and that maybe is printed in color or maybe is handmade and has, like extra signatures on it. And in a lot of our cases, I know that's what I've done, or is a very limited edition that only certain people will have. I mean, there's a lot to it that transcends just like, it's not a way to get music. It's a way to transact and commune with the fans and artists. And for that reason, it's still fucking expensive, and I have a closet full of stuff that is never going to actually get turned into the limited edition because the edition was more limited than the minimum run from the pressing factory. So I've got stuff that's like, I don't even know. Anyway, there's reasons.
I want to touch on that, but I will. Thank you, Razzie. I want to hit that up after I talk to Mr. Brett. Talk to me, Brett.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my thoughts on it were that for common distribution, like the way you're going to get the music out is mostly digital. However, there's an important art segment to it, and that things like Carl's paintings and such like that are awesome. By the way, thank you again. They're up on my wall right behind my office. But things like that are important. They're it's why we decorate our studios. These art things remind us, and inspire us. And my friend Jacob, who's also a bandmate of mine in another project called God, he loves records, and that's one of the things that, I'm looking at his record collection that goes back to Skinny Puppy records and freaking Faith No More and things like that. And it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe it was a little harsh initially on the analog, and I think there is we actually played a Black Dog Bite. Yeah, so that was awesome, and they do something that digital doesn't. You can actually pass that thing back and forth and have a discussion about it. It's kind of like what coffee table books do, but they're they allow you to engage with others on it in a more easy method.
Thanks, man. Ivan, tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of vinyl, because like the ritual of putting it on the turntable and dropping the needle onto the track is like it's a thing. And I've got stuff that's not even vinyl. It's the hell did they make it back in the day? So I've got stuff from the 20s that like still plays because once you've written that, it's immutable, which is good. The big risk with like buying digital stuff in your favorite music providing company is like Amazon Music. Download it, they can take it away. They can decide that you're not somebody that they want to support and just yank everybody's copies. And that gets done with movies and TV already. We're 10 seconds away from it being done to music, if not less. Like at any moment this could start happening. Any of this other services, again, they could just drop all your albums and not provide them to the world anymore. It just make you disappear. Whereas like physical media, that can't happen. And so like I'm a big fan of get more than just the MP3 if you can. If you have to get just the MP3, download the MP3. So now it's yours, not somebody. You're not just being allowed to use it at that point. And there is definitely a lot to be said for just the artwork. You can actually see it's not a thumbnail. Or back when CDs were a thing, like the CD was just like the super miniaturized version of the album art, which meant that like you lost all that detail. And you lost all that beauty. And I think the big thing with vinyl right now is it's kind of a value, you know, like let's go into the economics, it's value add. You're adding value. You know, as long as you can, you know, make that value add happen on the dollars and cents side, you know, then it's a win-win for everybody. And you know, like there's a lot of really nice vinyl pressing happening right now. Like it's not as niche of an industry as it was 5 years ago. Granted, at the same time, like, you know, good luck getting something pressed, because, you know, getting into the queue to get it done is gotta take a lot of planning right now. And like the rarity of vinyl pressing folks out there is great enough that 2 years ago I actually looked into what it would take to like start pressing vinyl, like, you know, at a semi-industrial level, to, you know, be able to provide that as a service. Holy crap, it's expensive. It's so very expensive. We kind of need more of them, though. I think that there's a call for that.
Thank you. This is really interesting. I guess I absolutely agree. I love vinyl, and I love physical media and all that stuff. I love creating it too. It's the best fun to create. The difficulty is that it's not cost effective. Like if you're a band who is really at the end of the day going to be selling 100 physical copies of something, and that's if you add all the CDs together and the vinyls together and something, really 50, because that number is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. For CDs, it's easy because you can go to places or print them yourself. The issue you've got there is that not all CD players are going to print a CD that you print. Are going to play a CD that you print. Like some cars won't. So that's just something I've noticed. I could be wrong on that. The other thing is that like Bandcamp does like one-off printing albums. And excuse me. And that's really great, but then, you know, the cost of those things is $30 or $40 each, and it's hard enough selling a vinyl for $20, $25, and plus in the US people are going to want free shipping. I guess my question is that okay, assuming you're a band like most band who's going to be selling 50 to 100 copies, physical copies of your product, how can you do that and make it look really cool? Before I do that, I will say thank you everybody in Angel Spit's Patreon who supported Ice Planet 9000. If you're in the mainland USA, I'm actually sending most people one of the paintings, like one of the real paintings, as a thank you. Brett, you already got yours, and yeah, it's just a thank you. So I got a bunch of paintings, and I'd rather give them away to my Patreon supporters. So yeah, but that's not everyone. It's a lot. I just say a lot of people are going to get that. In fact, I think, yeah. But anyway, look, so my question back to you is, what 50 copies? What are you going to do to make that cool? Let's brainstorm some cool, fun ideas. Go, throw it out. Alex, your hand is up, and you're welcome to jump in at this point, or finish whatever it is you wanted to talk about first.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think there are more vinyl pressing facilities popping up, because I constantly get ads on Instagram, and I don't think they would do ads if they were like fully booked. So I think since the pandemic, they have how's it called? They are not as fully booked as before, and also there are new ones, because they're ones I've never heard before, and I researched this previously. Yeah, and I think in terms of making things special, I always appreciate a vinyl cover that's like hard carton, that's like not flimsy and maybe has a nice printing. It doesn't have to be like the most fancy thing, but just something that's like not bends immediately. I really appreciate that. And of course, like a nice cover. But yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you. That's awesome. Razzie, hit me.
I think just to put things in perspective right now, and I just did a quick search to see if it might be up to date, but minimum runs of 100 records at about $10 a record, with label and some basically non-printed case, selling for in the range of 20 to make a profit, $20 US. I think those are the kind of numbers, and I don't know. I don't know which bands magically sell through 100 records, but like what your actual Spotify stream numbers or Instagram follower numbers you can look at to make that assessment, which is something I'm kind of interested in right now, and I want to look into how you can determine, how you can gauge if you're going to sell X number. But if you do, and on to your prompt about how to make them cool, I don't have any new ideas, but the one that I did last and that I felt really good about, and I hope the people that got one also do. I did a custom color for the disc itself, spent a little extra on that. White label for the sticker on the LP, so no charges there. And shipped in just the free slipcase, the inner sleeve, maybe with poly liner, I don't remember exactly. But the entire outer sleeve was handmade out of harder multi-layered cardboard that the artist that I collaborated with dug into and used ink stamps and hand lettering to create the unique and handmade artwork per record. And I think the edition was like 20 or something like that. It was a really low run. So it was like a promotional investment as far as the money went, and an artistic collaboration as far as the motivations and reasons to bother doing it went, and hopefully also a nice thing to own for the people that bought it. Oh, and I'm sorry, the white labels, we used black spray paint and then scratched into the center labels for the lettering on that instead of having anything printed, which at a really low run you can entertain doing. And you can probably do a couple of editions of these if you've got the right numbers, but that's again the next step that I'd like to look into is this decade, how those things play out, what you can look at in your numbers to gauge whether that's worth doing.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much. Alex, talk to me.
And things of making things unique. I've seen bands put make basically the cover out of not something other than paper. For example, felt or fabric, or what I also saw was like just a painted piece of plastic sleeve. It was basically the cover with like some printing on it. So yeah, that's the ways I've seen people make vinyl more unique.
Thank you. Okay. There's so much fantastic stuff going on here. My first thing is that I think if you want to gauge what CDs you could sell or vinyls you could sell, look at your Bandcamp sales. Don't look at Spotify. And then I would be looking at your actual Bandcamp CD sales, and I would be dividing that by 5. I want to say 10, but I'll just say 5. Because you've got people go, oh yeah, man, I love vinyl. I'll buy your vinyl. And then you got people who actually buy it. And I found that that's kind of a 10-to-1 ratio. So getting a really super small run of 100, I think safely, if you sell 1,000 CDs or 500 CDs on Bandcamp, you will possibly sell 100 vinyl. And I can feel people on the internet going, no, man, you're so wrong. Well, if I'm right, you're going to have more vinyl under your bed. The thing to remember about vinyl is that there is a really super long period of time for it to come in. Like you actually have to, it could be a 9-month wait. The vinyl for The Bastard Gods was, I think I had to wait 6 months. And what was interesting is that when I got them done, there was I had to tick a box that said, I haven't promised this to a Kickstarting campaign, because the delays are so good that the record, I have a feeling the record press got tired of being held responsible for delays. Secondly, a lot of stuff that's cost effective is getting printed offshore. I got mine done in Indonesia. Other ones get done in Canada. And that's going to add freight and freight time to everything. And when you're talking vinyls, you're talking kilograms and kilograms and pounds, like a lot of weight into fast plane shipping, super expensive. So, Rezi, I would love to know a link to the place where you mentioned, because the place I went to would go as low. It also did tapes, and it would go as low. You could go as low as about 100. I think it was 150 vinyls. It was nowhere near $10 each. But that's my thoughts on it. Also, the whole idea of creating something with some crazy elaborate box, I think, is a wonderful idea as an option. Because you could always say, okay, the cheapest option is a paper card. You might have a sticker on it. Then you might go some in a digipack. Then you might say digipack and a super cool box. But the thing you've got to always remember is that with this stuff, there's a minimum order. And the problem with making that minimum order is that you take this risk of saying minimum order versus cost effectiveness. And if money's not an issue and you're fine with losing a whole bunch of money, then that's not a problem. But I will warn you that no matter how much money, and I'm sorry if I'm prattling right now, no matter how much money that you choose to just give away and throw at the breeze, you're going to get tired of doing that real fucking quick. That's why I still think Kickstarters are great, because they're going to tell you ahead of time how much you're going to print. And I used to say, whatever you're selling a Kickstarter, double it. Now I say maybe 10% more, don't double it. And also you have the opportunity of going, well, I know that 12 people ordered the special super cool option, so you're only going to make 12 super cool options. But I do agree. People love, I made this with my hands stuff. I actually created something with my hands. And what you're getting is a very unique thing. People love that. Thanks again, Brent. I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, I do really appreciate that. And that's all I have to say on this. It's not, I'm going to keep shooting my mouth off. Alex, can you shoot your mouth off for a bit?
So I think whether vinyl, CDs, or digital is more prevalent for you heavily depends on your audience. And maybe also the way to buy it, because I was at a gig of She Passed Away, and they were selling much more vinyl than CDs at the merch booth. Like I think like I saw 3 people buy CDs, but maybe 15 bought LPs, like vinyl records. And also here's an example from an artist called Todd Onyx. It's a cassette, but I think it proves the point. It's like a paper sleeve. Then there's like a piece of cloth with a printed logo and some text. And inside is the record, which is has like a DIY sticker on it, and only on one side.
Thank you. That is really, really nice. Thank you very much. Rezi, what do you got?
I left my hand up from before I started getting really distracted looking at prices. I am finding between $8 and $14 for low runs, but I'm not positive or confident that they're what you'd want and what the actual features are, or if they're like rejected vinyl or permanently stomped on. So I'll stop looking for it and rejoin the meeting and lower my hand for now.
Welcome back. Thank you. And thank you for looking into that stuff. Ivan, your wisdom. Bless me with it now.
Yeah, I think, like physical media, vinyl and stuff like that, as a merch table thing, these days is being quite successful. I've been to a lot of live shows over the last, especially the last couple of, last year. And like, then what you go to these things and you're watching stacks of this stuff, disappear off the table because it's walking out in people's arms. And, like that warms my heart. Also, it's good to have something at the merch table that's not just a t-shirt. Man, I've got more t-shirts than I know what to do with. I've also got more wall art than I know what to do with. I'm not allowed to buy wall art because, like, to put something up now, something has to come down. And we don't even have a place to store that stuff anymore. So, but vinyl, I've still got space for that. I will make space for that. CDs, I'll maybe make space for that. Fun USB keys, I will definitely have space for. So there's plenty of room, and people are liking the vinyl right now, which sort of helps.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I really hope this trend continues, and I hope that bands can. I just, I do have a good feeling about the future with music and all that jazz. Do we want to keep talking about yay merch, or do we want to talk about making music, or what? Do we want to change the course here? What's going on in your brains? I see the hand of the resonator.
For some reason, the reactions button on my window is in a different place than it ever is, so I can't just click on it and raise my digital hand. But we might have talked about this a couple of times, but I would love to get the consensus as buyers, as fans, replicated versus duplicated CDs. Carl, you mentioned that some of the duplicated, like printed ones, I mean, not printed, but recorded CDR ones don't play in certain players. And there is a bit of that for sure. But let's assume that they're good quality recorded CDs versus normal quality manufactured stamped CDs. As a buyer, I definitely get a vibe on that. Like, it makes me feel a little bad, or at least think something, take notice if it comes through with the purple dye and single color inkjet label instead of the thermal, flood coated screen print on one side and the true rainbow silver on the other side. Like, I don't know what I feel about it, but I know I think something.
I think the last album so I'm going to simplify this by saying CDR versus pressed. So the last album that I did as a CDR was the product, because there was a minimum pressing of 1,000, and I never wanted to. That was a press. I've never wanted to do CDR because it feels cheap and scungy. But there's a reality to this, and that is that the product was 10 years ago. Since then, it's become more cost effective to do 500 than 250. And I think the last one I only did 150. Because there's an economic reality that it's no longer economically viable for me to press CDs. In fact, most places don't even offer it for runs smaller than 500. In fact, I only say that. I usually see the number as 1,000. It's not economically viable. And I really hate it when art is not economically viable and the quality starts to diminish. And I guess that's why there's certain things that I'm starting to not invest in anymore, because I'm concerned about the quality and all that shit. The reality is that I'm not Skinny Puppy. I'm just Angel Spit or Ice Planet 9000 or whatever. And Yeah, the that's where I'm at. So yeah, I just reading this thing. Okay, so that maybe answers that question. That and this is what the whole thing about merch comes down to. Even t-shirts now is that to get a short low run of t-shirts isn't viable anymore to go to my favorite punk rock screen printing place. You start getting shit digitally printed. I don't like digitally printing stuff because it's just me. I like punk rock screen printing. So there you go. I hope that answers something. Brett, talk to me.
All right. So one kind of thing about the CDs, CDR. I've done a lot of experimentation with this and different types of CDRs, including silverbacked CDRs. So what I found in that regard is if you are going to press an audio CD yourself, use the slower settings. Get a good burner and use the slower settings. At the end of the day, what the car is having trouble with is one, the color of the disc, but two, the way the laser has actually etched it. And so when you do the slower settings, it actually forces that die or whatever to move further, and it actually becomes a cleaner. And one of the cool things about that is we were even, experimenting, and this is where I kind of come back to on the CDR itself as maybe a cool thing to bring back. There were things like black CDs that PlayStation used. Well, we loved those as God. We had this disc, and on the back of it is jet black, and then it's like you hold it up to the light a little bit, it's got this reddish tinge. It was just sexy as hell. So it took a lot of work to get those to initially work in things like our cars and reliably at our friend's house and everything else. And what we really learned from that is that you really got to take your time with it, just like anything else. Burn it at those slower settings, and if you do that, I think it's a perfectly viable option to do these low runs that the market wants from us. And I think we can come up with a much more creative product that way.
That's really good intel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Alex, hit me.
In terms of Radial's question, as a listener, I strongly prefer pressed ones, but I understand the reality, so I'm not mad about it. However, if you do that, please don't do the mistake that one of my favorite bands unfortunately did of releasing a CDR with just low quality MP3s and not the WAS, because that was really a letdown. I felt like a bit cheated. I love the band, but that was like one of the worst experience I had with buying CDs.
Yes. Another thing I highly recommend you do is when you get it back from the CD pressing place, test a couple of CDs, because I have horror stories about bands getting. This happened to me actually. Actually, this has happened to me twice, where what's on the CD isn't what you put on there; it's someone else's job. One of my favorite ones is a band who shall remain nameless. They got someone's thesis on something, bioeconomics or something, really interesting stuff, but it was a great big PDF thesis. Another time, I got an R&B band. I was working with a band that was definitely not R&B, and what came was R&B. And it was like, I called the CD manufacturer going, we need to fix this now, because this has got to go out now, because I'm leaving soon and the whole thing has just fallen apart. It's just another thing that, they say, oh, it takes 2 weeks to print a CD. Give them 4. Just in case, give them 4 weeks. This happens. I'm going to throw it to you, Rezi, but I want to change pace here, if that's okay. And that is the music of your dreams. Have you ever written a song based on your dreams, or heard a song in your dreams and it came out? I just want to throw this out there. I thought we'd do something different, but if we don't want to talk about that, we won't. But first, here's Raz.
I'm happy to drop the topic of and switch to that. I think it's beautiful to think about. So, yes, I once in my life dreamt, at least let's say it was only once, a fully realized, but in that liminal awareness state where it might not have been really fully realized, but you think it's fully realized and you're convinced that you've heard the whole thing. And I heard it note for note like it was a recording, and I knew what the parts were, and it was like a really lame, tepid Sting adult contemporary song. So I couldn't do anything much with it. And then it's never happened again. So.
Am I muted or am I high? I'm back.
Now you're out.
Okay, but I'm good now.
Yes.
Thank you. This is really interesting. I want to. This is fascinating. Alex, talk to me.
I have a couple of work in progress songs that have lyrics and sometimes even melodies based on dreams or daydreams. But unfortunately, none of them realized yet. Because also it's really tricky for me because I feel I always fail to recreate the feeling I had in my dream. And so I'm sort of chasing something that I can't really reach because dream feelings are different from awake feelings. So maybe that's like a word of caution. I don't know. Maybe I should just accept that it won't ever be just like I felt in my dream.
This is getting interesting now. It's kind of a bit like when you're drunk and you write a song and you go, "This is the best song ever," and then you listen back to it and go, no, it's shit. I'm going to shoot my mouth off about this after we hear from Brett.
So dreaming music is something I do a lot of, actually. I would say it's for sure about monthly, sometimes more than that, and it kind of covers the gambit. Razzie was talking about kind of that liminal thing. I've done that with a lot of bands. The first time it happened was actually a Skinny Puppy song. It was I want to say it was I know it was off of Warlock. It wasn't Fascist Jock Itch though. I want to say it was like, it doesn't matter. But yes, it was like note for note. It was better than stereo. It was like hyper real. And I've had those kinds of dreams with even like Metal Church, going to Razzie's, point there. On my own stuff, that is where it actually happens more often. It's usually less liminal in that regard though. And it's more like, and where it happened most recently is me and a bandmate, or we're going through stuff we did 10 years ago. And, no, closer, probably longer than that. But nonetheless, in digging out these old songs and whatnot, it triggered something. And I've been doing this for a solid week now. And going literally pulling up old songs in my head and being able to go through them in detail back and forth, like while I'm sleeping, and like, okay, this part, this part, this part, this part. Yeah, it's kind of a normal thing for me.
That's really fantastic. I had this dream that I was. It's only started with me recently. I was thinking about Kerry. And she's on here often, and her ability to just go with it. Same with yours, Brent. You can just go with it. I can't do that, but I'm becoming more open to it. I had this dream that I was writing I was 12, and I was with Eminem, and he was 12, and we were writing a song together. And I was reading back through it going, this is a really good song. So I woke up and I wrote it down. I don't know where I wrote it down, but I wrote it down somewhere. And it was like, okay, yeah, this is good. And I feel like I should credit him or something. And I don't really listen to very much Eminem, but it's really, really good music. I fucking love Eminem. I had this other dream that I tried to write this thing down. I was in the, I'm going to tell you about my dreams now. I had a dream. I was in this ocean, and it went from horizon to horizon, and it was eternally deep, but I wasn't scared because I usually hate deep water. And I was breathing the water, and I was about 50 meters under the water, and the There was nothing to be afraid of. Because, normally if you're in extremely deep water, you freak out. I freak out. Well, nothing to be afraid of. And I could hear what whales hear. And whales can hear from 1 cycle to 220,000 cycles a second. And I could hear whale sonics. And I was looking up, and the way the sunlight moves very gently through the water. But what was interesting is that it was as if there was ice on the water, but it wasn't ice because the sun was refracting on flat surface, on a whole bunch of flat surfaces as well. And then this wave came overhead, and the wave went from horizon to horizon, and it was absolutely massive wave. And I heard it coming in the distance, and it was the most distant, beautiful reverb I have ever heard. And it came overhead in this massive, massive, massive sound. And it didn't sound like a wave. It sounded like beautiful, huge, deep sound that was bouncing off eternity. And there was this song, really simple droning song. And I read it, I woke up and I wrote that down. And it's funny that I think it was you, Alex, who said it never sounds as good. And somebody else in the chat, was it Alistair or Randall? Yeah, I wrote it down and I played it back the next morning and I went, I don't know. But it's funny that this song is this really simple, repetitive droning. It's been in my mind, and it's like, okay, I've got to use it because the recall on it's really good. And if I want to use the blaster beam, and if there's any way I can recreate the immensity of this sound, yeah, I can see Brent's thinking right now. But anyway, and that's a thought. I guess I want to try and write down ideas. If I hear them in my dreams, I'm trying to write them down, because I think if it was good in that state, then for somebody else when they're in that state, it might be good as well. So let's see how this goes. Kitty, it's great to see you. I'm wondering if I can build a hydrophone and take it to the beach for you. That sounds crazy. Thank you. Does anybody else want to jump in at this point? Ivan.
It's an old dream, but a goodie. So this dream that I was stuck in a bunch of extremely complicated, like underground, like hallways, like service tunnels with pipes and electrical wiring and bad lights and all of that crap. And we're just, me and a couple of friends, we're just following these halls. We're going someplace. We get to these these doors, and it leads into the old gymnasium from when I was in junior high. And like the junior high choir is there, and they're kind of singing, kind of chanting. Nice, easy to understand beat. The language is a little thick because they're summoning Cthulhu, and there's this like overhead like glassed in like in the announcer booth, over the top of the whole thing. And as we're standing there watching it happen and just being like, oh, this is gonna be a bad thing. The piping fades in and just ramps up. This just like wild, crazy piping sound. And then the lights started to flash up in the booth. And, I just looked at my friends in the dream and I was like, we need to run now. As like, it just starts to explode, and, like the creatures pop out and the piping gets louder and louder, and then the beat starts and and it's just, we're running, and eventually we get to this like kitchen because why wouldn't there be a kitchen in this like weird hallway arrangement? And one of my friends just looks at me and he's like, "We need to do a really good banishing now." I was like, "How's that gonna work?" And he's like, "It's a dream. Dreams are magic. Do some fucking magic." So we started in on that and like saved in the nick of time.
That's great. That's great. I've always, it's interesting. I'm trying to become more aware of the sounds that I hear in my dreams, and I'm trying to create them and be inspired by them. I never can make them, but in the journey, the attempt to make them, quite often something very interesting comes up. Yeah, this is great. Does anybody else have anything they want to throw in here? I don't see any hands. Ah, it's the Resonator. Hit me, Resi. What you got?
Just a real quick one. I'm inspired to get back in the habit of writing down some creative ideas with pen and notepad, since you mentioned the act of doing it. I definitely don't retain useful stuff from dreams, and usually they're just the opposite of what I feel like I could use. But you can always take something away from it, and it seems that there's strong consensus that writing the stuff down is a helpful and healing and interesting and creative process to go through, whether or not it seems like it's going to be anything in the first place. So I'm into the idea.
I think also it's really great to. I see your hand out, Ivan and Alex. I'll jump to you in just 1 second. I think it's great to have a dream journal or something, and to use it in writing music. I don't even try and translate what the hell a dream means. I'm not even going to bother trying to do that because I don't understand. But what I do know is that it's just full of amazing, surreal ideas, and it's just raw imagination. And yeah, I say write that stuff down and somehow weave it into lyrics, because sometimes when your lyrics just start disappearing up your ass a bit and everything starts getting really serious, weave a dream into it. Just try weaving something to make it a bit more abstract or something. That's my thoughts. Ivan, what are your thoughts?
I've been I cannot overemphasize the importance of dream journaling. I've got like 25 years worth of this stuff because I've been doing it for that long, and like it helps with retention. Like really helps with retention, and also once you've got enough data, you'll start to see patterns. Also on the like recreating the sounds, one of the big tricks with like the alternate reality that is your dreamscape is that like you don't miss any of the really important parts of the sounds. They make it work, and so like you get like the perfect version of it in your dream space. Because like even your ears aren't actually like filtering that sound. It is as pure and pristine as it can possibly be. So like being able to actually like go and like recreate it, that's never going to happen. But like that's where happy accidents live. And hey, good news. If you're into Eurorack is going to help get you there just a little quicker.
For sure. I totally agree. And something I'll just pick up on that as well. Remember that when you dream, you're not using your ears. It's going directly from your imagination to your brain. So you're not stuck to the concept of sound disappearing below 20 cycles or disappearing above 10 or 15,000 cycles. You are hardwired to your brain and the brain's endless imagination. And that also applies to colors. That colors are only limited by the bandwidth that you can see. But in your dreams and in your imagination, and this is a really nice thing to do, is try and imagine as if you can see what a hummingbird sees, which would be flowers that glow and infrared and ultraviolets. and try and listen like a whale. Even a sound that is, so deep that the upper harmonics of it are rumbles, and the sound itself is below it. Dream that you can hear like a planet, and just begin this process. And I definitely agree that then getting into some Eurorack nasties, whether it be actual Eurorack or digital boogada boogs, but sound is lovely, isn't
Also,
it, Josh?
geometry like doesn't have it works different.
Yeah, and it's not bound to 3 dimensions.
No, it's down to all of them.
And this is really interesting as well, Alex. I'll throw to you in just a sec. Is that I always go on about trying to think in higher dimensions, and I can never do it. But just the act of trying is such a wonderful thing to free my mind. And it's also really wonderful for de-stressing, because so much shit in my life is bound to 3 dimensions. And as soon as I go above it, you can see answers from a different perspective. You can hear music from a different perspective. Music is not 3-dimensional. I don't know what it is. It's something else. Alex, hit me.
The scary thing for me is always when I wake up and don't remember if it was a dream or not. For example, I once had to look up if I did a door project or if it just was in my dream. Unfortunately, it was just in my dream. In terms of multidimensional things, someone just released a 4D mini golf game. I've heard you're not a gamer, but that was something I found quite interesting.
A representation of 4 dimensions on a 2-dimensional screen sounds very fascinating to me. Although I hate golf and I hate mini golf, but nevertheless, this sounds fascinating. Thank you. Does anybody else want to jump in here about anything remarkable or crazy shit? Alex?
So during my last rehearsals, I had the problem that suddenly I had struggled getting the resonance out of my voice I wanted to. And I talked to my singing teacher about that, and she said it's just over stressing the voice cords, so they're losing some of the fine mucus that's on them. And my question for all of you is, have you similar experiences, and do you have ways of remedying that? Or maybe dealing with it?
Okay, that's please. This is great. Rezi, tell me, what are your thoughts?
Yes, it exactly happens to me every time I open my mouth to sing or talk. And my first remedy was voice therapy. You can hear right now it's getting a bit hoarse just in the top because I don't take the lessons to heart, and I didn't learn them extremely well. But if I really concentrate on it, I can get back to a place where I'm not doing that stripping the moisture off of your folds. I don't think I'm suggesting voice therapy for everybody, but paying attention to where you're placing your voice right from the minute you open it up in the morning, from the first thing you say until the evening, is very, very difficult. I find that I can't do it, but there's something in that. And then secondarily, of course, anytime I go to sing, like drilling on the same part over and over for rehearsal, or learning a part for recording, or getting through a whole live set, that does it also. Like, you find yourself at the edges of your habits and you're trying to feel out new places. And honestly, that's the most appropriate time to get fatigued and lose your resonance, as long as you're aware that it's happening. And you make part of that practice finding your resonance again and figuring out where your vocal folds are placed in the height and the lowness, and where you're actually focusing the resonations in your sinuses and your facial mask and stuff. And like being really aware of that, like taking it as a reminder when you start to feel that fatigue and you start to realize that you're not able to produce the same range, and you're not feeling as comfortable and free and open as you were when you first started, like taking away the lesson of notice and think about it and practice and bring it back to a volume and register in which you're not doing further abrasion and damage to the little tiny little vocal folds there, and give yourself a break once you've hit that level. So those are like really vague and the general answers for how I happen to think about that stuff when I can. But if I did have to say like one specific answer for a solution, it's take breaks. The minute you realize you're hitting up against that, it's good to be aware. You get a feel for that. But when you realize that your the top note or the clearest bottom note aren't there for you anymore, then it's time to shh, just for a little while.
I totally agree. Thank you, Brett. What do you got?
All right. So I used to strain my voice a lot, and I did so intentionally. And so there's a couple of things I learned out of that is you can only do that for so long, and if you want to be able to do this live, then you better be doing that overall as just a matter of short effect. There's something to knowing your range and what your voice wants to actually do, and using that overall to carry vocals. You can do a lot of effects and everything like that to give you additional, harmonics or whatever. But for me, anyway, it's a matter of going with my natural register for the most part, and then using things like fry, scratch, and whatnot for effect and emphasis. And that took me a long time to learn how to master. What Razzie is saying about knowing your voice and feeling, the vibrations and everything, I guess, the different vocal cords and everything, is very true. I'll give you a basic recommendation of mine is if I know I'm going to be recording vocals, then the day before, I'm taking out as many of these as water as I could possibly take on. And then usually before I go into it, I'm going to take out a Gatorade, let that sit, and then I'm going to get a vodka, 100 proof, bourbon, something. And what I'm specifically doing is it's not so much about catching a buzz or anything like that, but the alcohol will relax my voice even more and allows me to take advantage of those bass registers that I can produce, but I now want to sustain. And then after that, when you feel your voice drying up, which is inevitably going to happen, stop. Just stop. Put it down, walk away, come back tomorrow. That's me anyway.
I hope you were taking notes because that was bloody good advice. Water, absolutely water. And also with me, if I'm going to drink a little bit, I'll put usually vodka or rum in and like a shot of rum or something in a big glass of water because that helps me relax as well because tension, like Brett said, it's the worst. I'll also get a lolly, a sweetie, like a Ricola or something. Get sugar, don't get the sugar-free ones because sugar-free stuff dries your throat out. Just drink stupid amounts of water. You don't need to drink too much alcohol. Well, I don't either. It's just knocking it back, then you can focus and get the job done. But drink a lot of fucking and do your scales. Da 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 da. Worst scale I've ever heard. Here's a worse one. Da 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 da. That was awful. Do your damn scales. To get your voice ready, because if you just go straight onto a microphone, you're going to blow something up. Rosie, talk to me.
Carl, you're not in 12-tone equal temperament today. I think that's great. I appreciate it deeply. And I also just wanted to touch back onto Brett. You mentioned the things like your compressions and distortions and other effects with, noises and scream things are possible to do without stress. I mean, they're all a balance of airflow and the small muscles in the throat brought to bear non-destructively. They can be done for hours without being damaging, just in case the point wasn't made clearly enough. I'm not talking about strictly bel canto, pure tones and stuff. That's all of the effects that you can do with your voice. There are ways to approach them where they won't cause fatigue. I am not an expert after that point. I've only been told that that's the case. I haven't proven it.
Yes, absolutely. Does anybody want to keep going on this, or do we want to swap over to something crazy? Okay, let's swap over to something crazy. I'm going to suggest that we talk about what does multiple dimension music mean? What does it mean? Sound design, lyrics, the whole lot. How do these things inspire you? Let's talk about getting inspired and getting excited. Let's talk mythical for a moment. Anyone? Anyone? Anyone?
Go further down that rabbit hole, man.
That's where we exist. Do you want to just start talking about that, Brent, or?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of curious what you mean by multiple dimensions.
I don't know.
You don't know.
It sounded like a cool word, and it sounded like it made me sound cool. And anything that makes me sound cool, I'm going to bullshit on that for as long as I possibly can. But
All right.
also, like, freeing your mind past the concepts of everything. That's what I'm saying. And if you want, this could become an open discussion where we don't necessarily have to have hands up. But please, let's get the ball rolling.
Well, I'm thinking like something that sounds good now is alien enough in sound, though, that when you hear it 10 years from now, it still fits. Because music and whatnot, you still, I mean, the classics are a great example of that. I mean, we literally have people taking the exact same pieces and putting them on a different synthesizer to modernize them that much, and they still rock and roll. So that to me is multidimensional. It certainly spans time and personalities, and yet still touches on commonalities.
Love it. Another idea that I'm going to throw this to Mr. Raz is, don't write music for people. I mean, sure, you could make music for hummingbirds or whales, but write it for an MRI machine. Somebody mentioned an MRI machine. Write it for a blade of grass. Write it for a tree. Because you don't know what they listen to. You don't know what they hear. Sure, research it. But, I mean, if a tree listens with its ears, that's a very big diaphragm, and it can probably hear some ripping bass tones. Razzie, what do you think?
I don't feel a lot of interdimensionality when I listen to the stuff that I finished, and I don't think about it in the process. But Carl, I was talking to you a little bit earlier, just in passing, about working with other people, and when you get back the results of collabs and remixes, there are dimensions that you didn't access. There are things in the work that maybe they didn't use any of your tracks for. Maybe it's an eighth of a second sample of something that you did and it stretched to the length of the track. But I think that's definitely transcendent, and it definitely goes beyond we're stuck with a pretty two-dimensional view of the music a lot of the time, looking at a timeline with a waveform, as you have to do so much when recording and composing, or a piano scroll. You forget to listen. So that dimension's almost lost a lot of the time. Go back to listening. And then, once you get it back and there's this reinterpretation, and there's parts and inspirations and moments that you didn't even realize were in there, or that maybe weren't in there and that they brought to it, I think that's an amazing guidance out of the grid that you were fixed in when you made it.
I'm just reading some of the comments about Morning Adam, about write music for airports. So the actual airport itself, if you wrote a piece of music for a jet, a great big Boeing 737, they're the big ones, a great big jet, not the people in it, but the machine itself, what would that look like? Like, what would that look like? It's a thought process. What would that look like? What would that jet want to hear? This is me prattling now. Alex, talk to me.
So speaking about Brian Eno, if I had a card that said I should make music multidimensionally, I think how I would realize that is to just take the individual tracks and repitch and reverse and maybe use granular effects on them and just scatter them around the track in the background. So there's always a piece of another time point somewhere in the track. And how I would write music for an airplane, it would probably be proud and very noisy.
Thank you. Ivan, hit me.
Hey, first question I got to ask about this about this Boeing is what's it doing? I mean, what that plane wants to hear while it's taking off is wildly different from what it wants to hear while it's landing, which is even more wildly different than when it's up at 40,000 feet just cruising, versus what it's going to want to listen to while it's in the bay getting its doors bolted back on, or window seals replaced, or
if it's doing that, it probably wants to hear Waka Guitar, but go on.
Well, I mean that, or like maybe it's just getting its wings de-iced. It's wants to like listen to some like wing de-icing Enya,
right? Well, and herein is the wonderful thing is that what does a jet want to listen to when it's cruising? What does it want to listen to when it's taking off? And don't think, I wants to hear something. Think from the perspective of the jet. You're dealing with a machine now. Let's fuck around with this. You're dealing with a machine that has got machinery and diagnostic tools in it that will detect if the wings are moving by a fraction of a millimeter or temperature differentials all over the blah blah blah. It's detecting pressure and gravity and all of this stuff. So there's going to be an element of super fine stuff in there. Plus, the entire thing is an eardrum. So that's massive deep frequencies with massive high frequencies. And does it listen to mechanical music, or does it want to be more human? I mean, is it an incredible, is it a whale of the sky that wants to be this beautiful organic thing? Like, this is really, go ahead.
I suddenly find myself asking a dumb question: is how often do you end up with like 19 hertz subharmonics going on inside of a plane at altitude? And
always.
How often are you running into those enough that it's starting to jiggle the vitreous humor in our eyes around, which will cause you to hallucinate? Suddenly you're seeing aliens.
Yeah. And like, play with these things. Like, ask yourself these questions, take it to the most craziest extreme you can take it, and then create music for it. And the music might go for 5 hours or a fifth of a second, whatever it is. Extreme, go.
When they on four-dimensionaling the music, I mean, like, you can do polyrhythms with things other than just drums. So do that. I mean, like, I'm working on a piece right now, and there's going to be there's the main part of it, but then the melody that the piano is bringing in is going to be polyrhythmic against the rest of everything that's going on, because because why the hell not? Somebody stop me.
I love it. I love this. Do it. I just want to hear from Mr. Brett for a minute.
All right, so I'm playing with your idea here. So, the jet, like you say, it's big. It's a big ear, but it's also carrying people. 200 or 300 of them at a time. So what if it doesn't like some airports? The sound of some airports, or maybe they have a certain sense about them to where maybe the jet feels like it's like cheating on certain airports by being at some locations.
Yeah.
It's got to get all the people off of it some way anyway. So maybe it has this little internal dialogue where the things it's hearing in terms of rhythm are the things that a jet would hear out on the tarmac. It's a big ear, so the sun heating the tarmac and whatnot is going to cause crackling, and you're going to hear joints and certain things expanding and contracting. You're going to hear the trucks rolling around if there's a fire or something breaks out or a thunderstorm, birds, all those frequencies are going to be part of its day-to-day life. So picking out some of them would be, how you would define like its day at an airport or its moment at an airport. And then, so it's got some kind of internal dialogue going on about what it hears. It gets in the air, and now is it excited about going to another airport or is it dreading it? Because then that might influence its flight and whether or not there's thunderstorms or a hurricane or a clear blue sky. I think all of those things in terms of, like how it would heat and cool the plane and everything like that would kind of define the beat. And then, of course, motion is going to be a big factor there. And the faster it's going, the more of those harmonics and frequencies you have. I'm playing.
I love it.
Experience suggests to me that most airplanes do not like Atlanta.
It's too crowded there and too noisy.
Mm.
They want to go to the beach.
But this is a fun thing. I mean, if you're at the beach, what does a grain of sand want to listen to? Like just think about it. Think about how this mind exercise can inspire music and, more importantly, open your mind up to concepts that are not human.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, create new thoughts, new solutions, new music. And yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's a thought. And all these things about it doesn't like Atlanta. That's great. Work with that. Work with what does it feel like to have freezing cold air on your beautiful metallic skin. Anyway, thoughts. So many thoughts. We can continue on with this, or we could talk about something else, or we could right on over to MTV TV. I see the hand of Alex.
I would have an idea for another topic.
Sure.
Has anybody ever built their own MIDI controller? Is it hard? Is it not? Any experience? Because I've been thinking about it. It's not like I'm serious about it, but it's a thought that I had.
I want to hear the brain of Mr. Razzie.
I wish I was going to chime in with a yes, but I am just 2 hours ago thinking through the project that I have, which probably will be Arduino or basic stamp or whatever MIDI control with just like 4 buttons as a transport controller. I cannot find a proper in-point, out-point, play, stop, record, enable, loop or whatever. Just that with engageable backlit buttons, probably Mackie Huey control or something like that. I don't even know how this is going to go, but I will stay in touch with you on going forward over the next year once I get to it. Because my first project is a non-MIDI controlled audio processor that I'm in the beginning of right now, but I'm totally into the idea of, and I've looked into it a little bit. So I've got to start on it. Yes. No, I haven't done it. Totally interested.
I have also not done it. Also totally interested, but I know people who have. and there's a lot of plans and stuff online. And this is really an Ivan and Brent question as well.
It is not easy.
Okay.
This was my attempt. I stopped working on this a while ago, but like it's a joystick controller, that sends like MIDI joystick, but it's you can put the stick in one place and it'll stay there. It doesn't keep returning to center. It is mostly because like the M1 VST, like you need a joystick, or the like really any of the Korg VSTs kind of want a joystick controller, and I think I got it to kind of work mostly at one point. I haven't looked at it in ages, just because Korg made things easier for me.
Thank you, Korg, for making things easy for us all. I love this. Thank you. Alex, hit me with my brain juice.
Yeah, so to partially answer my own questions from the research I did, Dapfer does some kits, but they are really old school and don't have USB. And most people seem to do it with Arduino. And I think they are the existing libraries that people use.
Thank you. Yeah, Dapfer do some, and they're interesting. I was researching them. They also do like controllers that actually can control servos and stuff via MIDI, robot-y bits. And I just really want a MIDI thing that can be controlled, a robot that you control with MIDI. But that's just me. Brett, talk to me.
So I guess I have a kind of counter question. Are you and you may have just answered it, but are you going to use the controller with something like a DAW, or is this going to a specific piece of gear, or is it supposed to be its own piece of gear? You're muted.
So the idea that I had was like to make my own version of something like Softube's what's called Channel 1 or something. It's just the controls for EQ, compressor, and maybe some effect sense to just have that on my desk and map it. Have a way to map it to every channel so I can quickly jump without having to click around, because I find that really appealing to just have like hardware knobs for that, and I know I'm able to solder potentiometers to PCBs. So in theory, it should be easy and not that expensive. And if I'm willing to sacrifice the optics, it might be not too expensive.
So part of the reason I was asking you that is, I've run into situations where I wanted to control something with a unique controller because I wanted something like that. I wanted to marry, this effect and apply it to this instrument. And honestly, I have found off-the-shelf video game controllers, the standard Xbox controller, and simple software in my DAW that allows me to map the buttons and allow the positions of everything to what I want to control to be an ideal fit. But but if you're literally going outside of the DAW to a specific piece of gear, then obviously you need something to translate those motions and whatnot. And some sort of hard circuitry or Arduino may actually be that perfect, marriage. On the trigger side of things, piezoelectric speakers are ideal triggers of any kind. You can get them in multiple sizes, nail them up to any drum, any like Elisa's, mine's a DD5, I think. Some sort of drum brain that can take that, instant on-off data, and you can put that to anything, and they're awesome.
Okay, that's very interesting. Razzie, what you got?
Alex, I could not be more with you on the building a custom control surface that matches the knobs that you need to access frequently and doesn't do anything else and can't be accidentally mapped to some other thing, and you've built it for that purpose. I think that is the one thing, and I know I've said this before, that eludes me with control surfaces. They're everywhere, and they're never assigned to the thing that I think they should be. And even though they dynamically reassign, I don't know quite what this knob is going to do. So I know SSL makes a, looks like the Pro Tools channel strip, one-to-one knob control. And that's great, but it's expensive. So knobs, buttons, feedback to light them up and turn them off, and the, programmable ASIC of some sort, or the Arduino to make it all happen, and then a box. You can actually make it quite beautiful pretty easily too. Like I wouldn't even stop it. It might be ugly and go for the project boxes. I hesitate to mention suppliers, but there are so many Chinese factories making this stuff, and your choice of if you want to support them or go with an American company, with examples of the parts, kits containing the parts that you need, the boxes, the stamped metal things or silk screens to do the services. It turns into a whole super fun creative project. I have like a whole outlook looking ahead to do some of this stuff, brewing. But yeah, the purpose-built thing that's going to do a task to software that you don't have to then mouse into menus for, because it's guaranteed to be controlling it. Super good. I love the idea.
Excellent. This has been wonderful. I'm actually thinking we might wrap this up, and we might go shoot on over to MTV TV. I want to thank. This has been really wonderful. This is Art of Rock. Every Saturday we're here on Angel Spit's Twitch. Also, there's a lot of people on the YouTube as well now, and I thank you for being part of that. And I don't know what that is and what I just touched on, but everything's freaking out on me. Hi, welcome back. This is brought to you by Angel Spit's Patreon. Razzie, thank you so much for taking this while I've been away. I really, really greatly, really appreciate it. That's it. Now, what I want you all to do now, before we raid to MTV TV, is tonight there is a really cool thing going on. That's the event for it. It's a gig in Argentina, and that's Argentina, and that's being streamed with the help of MTV TV. And we're now going to actually raid on over to MTV TV. So if you're not going to be raiding on Twitch, if you're watching on YouTube or something else, that's the link to go to. I'm going to put this in here because so there you go. I want you to do that because life's too short. Isn't it just? So thank you for joining us. We're going to stay back here and have a chat. And then Diana, if you could make the magic raid happen, that would be spontaneously incredible. You rock. I'm going to mute everyone's mics, then we're just going to stand back here for a while. Bye. Bye. That's fantastic. This is still my face and everything's great. And now I'm going to do this.